Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
And the supercomputer wasn't using some bizarre, crappy language. It was using the premier supercomputer language of the day, and it was programmed as efficiently as possible within that language for the algorithm being used. And the home computer was not being programmed as efficiently as possible in the language, and it was being programmed in BASIC. But the algorithm being used on the home computer was something called quicksort, and the one being used on the supercomputer is something called bubble sort.
Yeah.
And the size of the problem was 1 million elements. And at 1 million elements, quicksort is approximately 50,000 times more efficient than bubble sort is.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, these days, we can have lists that have billions or even trillions of things in them.
Yeah. Fast a little since 1984.
Right. So at trillions of things, quicksort is approximately 25 billion times more efficient than quicksort is.
Right.
Or than bubble sort. Quicksort's about 25 billion times more efficient than bubble sort. Modern markets are in that in the trillions zone.
Right.
And my system is essentially a bubble sort to quicksort level step up in algorithmic efficiency.
Gotcha.
And so at scale, my system is probably about 300,000 times more efficient, computationally speaking, than the present markets are.
Yeah.
And that's all. The math of that is all in the patent, basically.
And that's why they can't grasp it, because it's just way over here, right?
Yeah, probably. So I very energetically put this point across to my attorneys.
Right.
They write a pretty sharp, they fix sort of the grammar and spelling mistakes.
Right.
But then it's a few pages long, and it's basically every paragraph is punctuated by, and if you don't want to accept this, then you're going to have to prove it, because here's the publicly available, universally acknowledged mathematical proof that we're right.
Right.
And if you want to dispute that, then we'll see you in court.
Right.
So this brings us now to February 2021.
Okay.
So this process takes more than a year.
So we're now through COVID.
Acceptance.
We're through the shutdown. Right.
It's coming back a little bit. Yeah.
Well, but COVID was 2020, right?
Yeah.
So
COVID's
we were
2020.
shut down the spring of 2020. So you're through all that.
Yep.
Right. Which I heard affected the patent office too. So
it did.
You're all through all that. Now you're
Yep.
February of 2021. So we're back opening back up and all that kind of thing.
Yes. So they issue another notice of acceptance saying, hey, that's right. We don't know what we were thinking here. Thanks for the spelling mistakes and that stuff, but it's all good.
So they finally said yes.
They say yes the second time.
Okay.
My lawyers are like, we're not delaying on this one. We gotta file.
Yeah, before they change their mind.
Immediately. Right.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we
learned our lesson on this deal, right?
Right. Yeah. So we file to get accepted. 3 weeks later, they withdraw that notice of acceptance.
Oh, God. This is just painful.
Yeah.
And I didn't even live it. I'm just listening,
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, this is what I'm living with. So they withdraw that notice of acceptance. They It takes them about a month, but they come back with their reason. And
Okay.
their reason this time is that if they grant this patent, then I will control the economy.
Right. Right.
That's too important. They can't do it.
Right. They can't give you that kind of power.
They can't. Yeah, this patent is too good to be offered, because if they granted the patent, then it would be implemented, and if it was implemented, I'd get rich. So they're not going to
Right.
do that.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yes. There's no thing in any of the laws that allow this to make any sense.
Right.
And they're actually way too expansive. They say I will control all economic activity, but they've already admitted that there's zero prior art. So all
Right.
existing economic systems, like I can't shut down grocery stores,
Right.
like because they're not covered under my patent.
Right.
Like that. So basically it's pure BS.
Yeah.
And so my attorneys talked to my examiner, his supervisor, and she and he say, we agree that this patent should be granted. Like,
Right.
we're on your side. We think this is a great idea. We've been told that we cannot move forward with this. And we can't talk to you about the people that told us to do this. And we can't understand the people that are telling us to do this.
Right.
So this is the best we could do to write down what they said the reason was. So we don't know what the reason is that this isn't going forward.
Right. We're just parroting.
Right. This is our best understanding of that we don't understand.
Right. Literally, yeah.
Right. Passed on to you, and we're powerless. We cannot, like, we disagree with this right now, but
Right.
we can't not do it because we've been told to do it. So okay, so I talked to my attorneys, and basically like, well, we can construct a logical brief that knocks this down very easily, because the people that wrote it don't even believe in it.
Right.
But obviously that's not going to move the ball forward, because they're not going to do their jobs just because it's their jobs, and somebody else has told them what their jobs actually are,
Right.
which is to not do it. So we can drop it, or we can file an appeal.
Yeah.
So I instruct them to put together the appeal.
Right.
I also open up a case with my congressional office, and I get the guy running my case is the chief of staff for the congressional office. He's been there for much longer than the congressman has been.
Right.
And so he says, this is like, most of what congressional offices actually do is customer service.
Mhm.
We don't control the bureaucracy. So we can't go in and tell them to do what, you want to have happen.
Right.
What we can do is get a report filed from them.
Right.
And basically, like 6 to 8 weeks, it won't just be a form letter. They'll tell us what's going on. And usually it's pretty, maybe even 4 to 6 weeks. Like, the bureaucracy likes telling the people that sign their paychecks that they're doing their jobs. Like, that's what their jobs are. So I can get that in, and we can sort of find out what's going on for you.
But they can go ask questions, right? And when a congressman asks questions, because Congress has oversight,
right?
When Congress starts asking questions, now all of a sudden everybody perks up, and they're like, okay,
Exactly.
yeah, right. So now the pressure cooker is starting to
exactly. Yeah. So a month, maybe 2, I'll have something. So 2.5 months later, we get the form letter. The form letter recapitulates the timeline I just gave you, except it's false. It leaves out the first notice of acceptance entirely.
Right. That's convenient.
Yeah, I thought so. And it has a little code at the bottom saying that patent office policy is that they will only communicate on a case through a single channel. And since I have an attorney, that is the single channel. So
Right.
they're never talking to the congressional office
Right.
on this subject ever again.
Well,
So
if they can avoid that, if there's a way for them to avoid that, they're going to, right?
they did.
Because now they've gotten their attention. So that's why you're getting what you're getting, because you got their attention through the congressman. Yeah. Or Congress. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Congressional
they just shut down the congressional rep.
Right.
So he gives that to me. He's like, I've never seen this happen before.
Right.
You know, that's it. Like, you know, I can't send armed
But
people.
you know what's happening here, right? So bureaucrats are in the business of perpetuating their own existence, right? And they're all about routine. Even in the patent office, which comes up, you know, patents don't come to them. They come to them because they're new ideas. They deal with new ideas all day. They deal with and I know this for a fact, they deal with a support for an oven door, right, that was redesigned by General Electric, and now it's being patented because it makes the oven door easier to open. The reason I know that is because a very good friend of mine's son works for General Electric, and they literally got a patent for that. He's got like 9 patents that he's been awarded through General Electric, working as an engineer for them, right? So we know that that's the case. That's a heck of a lot easier for the patent office to understand than what you're submitting. And so all of a sudden it's this change for people who don't like change. It's too much. It's too much change. You're literally rocking the boat too much, right? And they're like, no. When you rock the boat too much, they throw their hands up and go, I'm crying uncle.
Yeah. So it took us a little while. The appeal was filed in the winter of 2022.
Yeah.
And then the appeal was scheduled to be heard July 2025. Just this last July, just July 2023.
Okay.
I think I've got the timeline right there. I get years off sometimes, but anyway, I do know it's July 2025 is when my appeal will be heard.
2025.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
it's a good thing they're not delaying it.
Yeah. It's really the speed and efficiency is what blows me away.
This is that bureaucracy thing all over again. This is nuts.
Absolutely, yeah. The case basically is that they've said yes twice and then refused their own yeses on both occasions for reasons that the people who are actually in charge of saying yes can't support and can't be supported with any logical argument that anybody's been able to advance.
Yeah, except that they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're dealing with.
And they actually do patent market mechanisms. There's actually this woman that works for the CME group, and she patents a market mechanism like a few a year. Yeah. And back in 2019, they actually had one turned down because the patent office tried to say that market mechanisms were unpatentable subject material, and the CME group appealed that decision, and the patent board said market mechanisms are a patentable subject matter. Wow. So I've got precedent and reason and the arresting officer as character witnesses.
No kidding. Wow. So
we'll see what happens in a year and a half.
So now we're in limbo?
Yeah. Prior to being heard. So patent search is notoriously very difficult to do.
Yeah.
The systems that exist are incredibly clunky. Google has a patent search facility that works slightly better than the patent offices, but it still has never worked nearly as well as general Google search does.
Right.
Unless you pay specific fees to stop them from doing this, when you file a patent, they publish it's under consideration, they publish the patent material on their website. And so for years, I was offering people that link to the patent under the sort of patent pending. The patent is technically still pending because they could still say yes.
Right.
But I had that link, and it's this big complicated URL that gets you, to the right position inside the patent system.
Right.
Once it's appealed, they take that down. Now, the Google patent search link still has it because it is still a pending patent that's still there. But as part of policy, once you're going to the appeals process, the patent office starts erasing public materials about their actions.
Unbelievable.
Uh,
CIA, right?
yeah, well, it's always encouraging when your government is behaving the way that, the evil corporation in the movie behaves when
Yeah, not
it's
really.
under investigation.
Not really.
So yeah, that
Wow.
kind of thing starts happening. And I've had a couple more outreaches. There's something called, I think it's the Patent Outreach Board or something like that. But there's a group within the patent office that is focused on sort of how we doing type messages, like the customer review, that kind of thing.
Right. Feedback.
And yeah, and so the Eastern Seaboard, some of the people that run that are actually anchored here in Central Virginia. So sort of a friend of a friend, I got connected to them. And I got onto like a Skype call with half a dozen people from that office. And this is after the appeal was filed, after the congressional office got their fingers burnt and they were told never to come back again.
Right.
I got onto a call with them, and they were like, well, once the appeal's been filed, there's probably nothing left that we could possibly do. But for other inventors in the future, what kind of changes to patent office, procedure would you like to see as an inventor?
Yeah.
I'm like,
How many days do you have, right?
right.
This
How
answer
about
could take a week.
ever explaining anything that you're doing in rational
Right.
terms, like even once?
Unbelievable.
But they did give me the number for the patent ombudsman. And so I called them up.
Yeah.
So I opened up a case and they said, okay, well, here's your case number. There's probably nothing we can do, but we'll call you back in a week. And we'll take a look at what's going on. But since this is going to appeal, it's kind of past where we step in. So, but we'll check in. So a week and a day later, I call them back and say, hey, just wanted to check in.
Didn't hear back.
Yeah, didn't hear back when they were expecting to be calling me back. And so the woman was very nice. She's like, I don't see you here. Let me open a case. I was like, no, I have a case number. Here's my case number. She takes that down. She's like, I don't see this. Let me try something. Oh, here it is. I don't know why it's not where she was expecting it the first time.
Right.
Who knows? So she's like, huh, okay, well, there's nothing really here. Why don't you tell me what's going on? So I told her a somewhat abbreviated version of the story I just told you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And her response was, oh, wow. Yeah. I've told this story at this point to over a dozen patent attorneys with more than a decade's worth of experience. I've told it to probably 4 or 5 dozen patent attorneys, but I've told it to more than a dozen with more than a decade's worth of patent experience. None of them have ever heard of anything like this happening to anybody.
Yeah. Well, it's the product that you're trying to get, the technology you're trying to get patented, right? It's just way beyond their scope. It's way beyond what they can understand. And so they're kicking the can down the road because they almost can't say no, right?
Well, they can't legally say no.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They can't say no.
They can say no. They just can't do so reasonably.
Right. They just have to get to a place to where they fully understand what it is. And, the whole idea of it's so large that you'd end up owning the economy Come
It's
on.
not quite that
Right.
large.
Well, I get it. But it's,
But yeah,
it is large. It is
it is
large.
big. It's a
It's
really
big.
big deal. It's a
It's
bigger
big.
deal than every other patent that's ever been applied
Yeah.
for in the history of the United States.
That's what I'm gathering from
Yes,
everything that we're talking about. So would it help if we put a link, that Google patent link, would it help to
I-
put that in the description?
I'd be happy to do so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to figure out how I can help you, right? So,
Yeah. That
so if somebody's listening to this, is there anything they can do to help you at this point?
um, that's a great question. Uh, to a great extent, markets are about mind share, and
Yeah.
so getting on board, learning how this thing works, and expressing interest in supporting this once it goes forward is of extreme potential value, actually,
Okay.
because it wouldn't take very many names on a petition to tip this over into something that was actually launchable and acquirable and so on. Right
Okay.
now, I'm mostly focused on trying to license the technology to people that could actually,
I
do
got you.
it. But
So what if we did this? What if you started a petition online and you send us the link? We'll put it in the description. If anybody that's listening wants to, because we're in 24 countries now, right? And counting. So if anybody's listening and they want to support what it is that you're doing, we'll put the link to the patent pending link, right? We'll put that link in so that they can review the information. They can review this podcast, right? And then put in, put together an online petition. We'll put a link in your description for that too. And then they can reach out to you if they have questions. What do you
okay,
think?
I'm down for it. That sounds
That might
terrific.
be that might be a way to generate, because I mean we've got some time, right? I mean we're a little bit away from, or what, a year and a half away
Year
from.
and a half, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe if we can get a petition going and maybe get the word out, right? Maybe what we can do is we can speed that up a little bit, maybe increase a little bit of pressure. Sometimes that never hurts, right? We went the congressional route and they basically told us to stop it,
Yes.
right? Got
Right,
your hand
right.
slapped, right? How'd that feel,
Exactly.
right? So let's if you're up for it, put an online petition together, send us the link. We'll put it in your description and we'll see if we can generate some interest.
Sounds terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm sure after listening to this, there are going to be people that want to support you, right? And they want to try and help because you're basically stuck, right? You put all this work in and all this expense in, and you're basically stuck. So
There
let's
are
let's
there
see
are
if we can let's see
a
if we can get some
handful
people
of
behind you.
projects around the world that are trying to build markets that incorporate this technology.
Yeah,
And they're getting slow off the ground. We'll see what happens with those.
yeah.
But yeah, it's rough, and so
Well,
having
let's get the
people
let's get
interested,
the word out and see what kind of trouble we can get into.
absolutely. Um, so we overshot a little bit. We're up to about 2023. Last spring, I got introduced to a guy who's actually the ex-CTO of Reddit.
Okay.
Um, he retired recently and moved to my region and got involved in a conference here called TomTom, and it's got a technology track. And he wanted to talk about AI.
Okay.
ChatGPT was sort of just blowing up, and so he was running the tech track and wanted a panel about AI ethics. And so a friend of a friend introduced the two of us, a woman named Tracy Green, and so we got together and had a very successful panel talking about, what sorts of capabilities were starting to come, were immediately visible, and the implications of those sorts of abilities to everything from copyrights and patents to politics and economics.
Yeah.
And we kind of hit it off, and so we started a podcast together, which
Beautiful.
we just hit our 10th episode last month.
I love it.
It's called The Fourth Age, and so we've been doing that kind of since late summer or so.
Okay.
And that kind of brings us up to the present at
Okay.
this point.
Well, if you're looking for guests for your podcast, I'm looking for podcasts to go on. So if you feel like I'd be a good guest, I'd be happy to be on your podcast.
Okay. I'll put you on my provisional list.
Beautiful.
And we can work that out.
Sounds great, buddy. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been a fun ride. I am so excited for your future. And if there's anything we can do to help you, we're all in. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is an exciting idea. I'm raring to try this thing out.
I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you again for being here. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.